Hi, seventh grade. This is part two, and I want to talk to you a little bit now about Punnett squares. So now that you learned about dominant and recessive traits in the first screencastify, I want to talk a little bit about these things called Punnett squares, and it would be very helpful if you had your book open to pages 82 and 83. So if you need to log off of this and sign back in, I would suggest that you do that. But again, pages 82 and 83. You'll notice on page 82 there's a blank white box with a number 1 on it towards the bottom. It says start by drawing a box and dividing it into 4 squares. So we're going to learn about Punnett squares, and I think you're going to have some fun actually doing this. I couldn't help it. When you draw a Punnett square, the first thing you do is you draw a large box and divide it into 4 small boxes. You need to do that in drawing number 1 in your textbook. Okay? Then, the next thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about what happens when you play around with crossing different plants with different plants. So the first thing is I'm going to take a smooth, dominant pea plant. We learned that a dominant purebred pea plant that's smooth is 2 capital R's. And we're going to cross it with a wrinkled pea plant, which we learned were 2 tiny R's or 2 recessive traits. When you do that, it doesn't matter if you write the large R's here and here, or if you do it on top. Okay, there and also there. It doesn't matter which way you write it, as long as you write it either above each box or beside each box. In this case, I chose to write the more dominant trait on top, the recessive trait on the side. It doesn't matter. Okay? Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to fill in the Punnett square. And again, I'm sorry, it's a little awkward here working with this camera that I have. But when you go to do this, always take 1 letter from the top and 1 letter from the side. So you're going to take your 2 capital R's, you're going to bring them down, and you're going to put 1 in each of the 4 boxes. And because you have 2 small R's on each side, you're going to bring those across on each side as well. And when you do that, look at what you end up with. You end up with 4 dominant hybrid smooth pea plants, or 100%. Now, you don't have any purebreds in here, you don't have any recessives. When you cross those 2 together, that's what it looks like. In the next example, I'm going to do another one with you. Let's take one of those hybrids that we actually just made. Let's take one of the hybrids that we just made, and look, this time, let's actually cross it with a recessive wrinkled one. So I'll put my hybrid one on top. I'll put my wrinkled one on the side. I'll bring my 2 large R's down. I'll bring my 2 small R's down from the top. And then I'll bring my R from the left side over to both boxes, and then the second left R over to both boxes, just like that. Okay? When you do this combination, notice what you come up with. You come up with 2 hybrid dominants, and you come up with 2 recessive ones. And that's a 50-50 probability. So you have a 50% chance of each. These are very easy to do on paper. Now I'm going to go over one more example with you. What happens this time if I cross 2 hybrids? 2 hybrid smooth plants. Look at what happens. And this is really kind of neat. Move my hand so you can see it. You end up with your 2 capital R's in the first box. And then you end up with a big R and a small r in the second box. Then you go to the bottom row, you end up with a large R again and a small r, and then 2 small r's in the bottom box. That means that 3/4 of these are going to be dominant traits, and 1/4 is going to be recessive. And more importantly, 25% is a purebred wrinkled, 25% or 1 is going to be, is a purebred smooth, 25% is going to be a purebred wrinkled, and 50% is going to be a hybrid for smooth. Okay? That's your Punnett squares. We'll be back one more time to talk about